What's up guys, today I'm going to teach you guys how to make the perfect cup of coffee, and for me that's buttered coffee. I know buttered coffee doesn't sound good, but I'm going to make a believer of you. You have to at least try it this way one time and tell me what you think. So what I got here is I got my hot water boiler, and this is a special one with a special pour spout that's smaller and it pours the water totally perfectly and cleanly, which is actually important for how we're going to brew it today, which is my preferred method of brewing, which is a pour over. Super easy, super cheap, and in my opinion, and many baristas would agree with me, the best way to make your coffee at home. You can taste the flavors the best, but you can also use a French press, or if you like just pot regular brew method, that's fine as well. But I would recommend that you do medium roast coffee, because if you use a dark roast, it's just doesn't go very well with butter. You want something that's not as thick and full-bodied as a dark roast is, so that's why I always go with the medium roast. I do enjoy my dark roast, but never with butter. So if you're going to go the butter out, use a medium roast coffee. Make sure this is Scout coffee from Redding, California, and this stuff was just roasted, which is massively important. You want to get stuff that's been roasted within the last couple days, ideally like the day before, and you want to use it within a week. And if you're not using it in that time, then throw it in the freezer. And make sure you get whole bean and grind it right before you're going to use it. Only grind enough for you to use in that one session, and then keep it whole bean. You don't want to just grind a whole bunch and have it sitting there for a week. Alright, so the first thing we're doing is I'm getting my water temperature to 200 degrees. I like to brew between 200 and 204 degrees. And that's because if the water's too hot, you're going to burn your freshly ground brew that you have your coffee grinds. So I'm going to preheat this pour over, and I'm also running water through my filter, which is going to take out all that paper flavor. So you want to run a decent amount of hot water through there. And I'm also preheating the pour over, preheating the cup, and then you just throw the water out. My cup's nice and hot now, so you're not losing the heat, which, I like a nice hot cup of coffee. But again, you don't want it too hot, because if you make it too hot, then you're going to burn the coffee and it's going to taste bitter, and that's why people don't like coffee, because it's too bitter. So what I'm going to do now is I got my decaf. It's the afternoon. Sorry guys, no fun for me this afternoon. I'll have my regular in the morning. But I'm going to throw in just a couple of beans, and I'm just cleaning out my Burr Grinder here. Really important to have a Burr Grinder. It's just a type of grinder, because you don't want to heat up the beans while it's being ground up, which most, like a spice grinder, will do that. But a Burr Grinder is nice because it keeps the grinds nice and cool while you're doing it. Right, so now I just basically cleaned out my grinder, so I'm just going to discard this first little tiny bit of grinds that I have there. And then I'm going to throw in this nice freshly roasted decaf. And what I'm going to do actually is throw this on my kitchen scale. And this is a super easy way to measure how much coffee you're going to have in the morning. So I can do it exactly the same amount before my workouts. I want to know exactly how much coffee I'm getting. So today I'm going to do 25 grams of coffee. And I've searched a lot all over the internet and done a lot of reading and stuff. I'm a little bit over there, 28. And I found that the best ratio of coffee to water is somewhere between 17.4 and somewhere in that range. So that's what I would shoot for, 17.4 grams of water for every gram of coffee that I'm doing. So I'm right at 25 there. So I'm just going to throw this in, grind that up real quick. And I'm using a between fine and extra fine for my setting. So you want, when you're doing a pour over, it's important that you have a nice fine grind, not too fine. That'd be something that you do for like Turkish coffee. So if you live at altitude, say Flagstaff, Arizona, where we also live and train, it's nice because at 7,000 feet the water actually boils at around 200 degrees, which is absolutely perfect for brewing your coffee at home. So if you live at altitude of 7,000, 5,000 feet, you don't even need something to grind this or to heat this to that temperature, because it will naturally stop heating up at the right temperature. So now I'm going to throw all this on my kitchen scale, just clear it real quick. It doesn't take long to make a really high-end cup of coffee, and it makes a huge difference. So I'm throwing my freshly roasted Scout in there, and I'm right at 20 grounds. Sometimes you lose some in the grinder itself, so what I'm going to do now is start pouring. I'm going to clear this, get my waters at 203 degrees, and what you want to do is just put in about 30 to 40 grams of water going in a circular motion like that, and then you can see the bubbles. That's because the coffee is fresh, and that's a good sign that you're going to have good coffee. Smells excellent. So I'm right at 35, and what I'm going to do is let it sit for about 30 seconds. And while it's sitting, I'm going to pull out my calculator. And to figure out how much water I should be pouring here, it's super easy. Just going to go 20 grams of coffee is how much I put in there. And then multiply that times 17.4 grams of water per gram. So that gives you 348 grams of water that you're putting in here. So it's been about 30 seconds, so I'm going to continue to pour here. And you want to start in the middle and just kind of work your way out. And this is where having a nice pouring kettle like this just makes a massive difference, because you can get a nice smooth pour and you can control the pour super well, whereas it just kind of sloshes all around if you have just a big wide mouth kettle. So I'm going to just continue to pour super slow, and you don't want to just go fill it all the way up to the top, even if you're not quite to your water level. You want to do it in somewhat small amounts, and I like to keep the water level right about at the same line until I reach my level, which again I'm going for 348. I'm already at 324, so just need a little bit more water. And again, it's super easy to control how much I put in here because of how finely this pours.
And you don't want to hit the edges, right?
And you do not want to hit the edges of the coffee filter there. You want to make sure that you're pouring on the grounds themselves, and start in the center and just work your way around in a circular motion, and then start in the center again and work your way around. So while that's already at 348, and so I know that, so I can take this off our kitchen scale. And what I'm going to do now is the key to good buttered coffee. I have my Vitamix grinder here. And what I'm going to do is use the rest of my water that I have, of hot water, and I'm going to preheat this because I want to keep my coffee as warm as possible. And also, honestly, sometimes these Vitamixes retain a little bit of flavor from the last thing that you had in there, or a little bit of the soapy flavor, which I don't like at all in my coffee. So you want to rinse this out just to get all the flavors out. So I'm not only heating this up, I'm also rinsing it out. So throw that just away, put this back on the kitchen scale, and then we got our Kerrygold Irish butter that is grass-fed butter, super high quality, not that expensive if you find it at the right stores, and it's available at most major grocery stores. And so now I'm just going to throw in 1 tablespoon of butter, and again, it's so easy to just use the kitchen scale for this. I use the kitchen scale all the time. It's way easier to me than pulling out different measuring cups, and you're looking for teaspoons and tablespoons, and I can just pull out a spoon and just throw it in there. So I like a tablespoon of butter if I'm doing about a cup that size. And so a tablespoon's 15 grams. So I'm going to add that to my preheated, close enough, 16 grams there. And now this is ready to go. So I'm just going to take this off and go straight into here, and keep my warm cup there, and then just throw this right on my Vitamix.
Do you sweeten it at all?
And you can throw some sweetener in there if you want, whatever you like. It's good without it, but what you're going to find is this is going to give you amazing, creamy, almost like latte-ish flavor to the coffee that's just amazing. And we like salted butter. If you don't like to do salt, that's okay too. So I'm going to start with the slow. And the more you grind it, the better, the more frothy it gets. Alright. So here we go. We got our buttered coffee here. You can hear it. And what I'm going to do too is just throw this on and show you guys how much coffee I brewed here. This is the nice things you can figure out exactly. Look at the frothiness on top there. That frothiness just tastes absolutely amazing. So let's see how many ounces we have here with our 20 grams of coffee that we brewed. Right, oh, it smells so good. You guys are in for a treat. But if you do not blend it in this, the butter's just going to sit on top, and you're going to be like, this is the nastiest thing I've ever tasted. You have to blend it. Look at that. So what did we end up? We ended up with 11 ounces of coffee here for 20 grams of that. And there you go. Buttered, delicious. So good. Try it at least once, promise me.